You're listening to DraftKings Network.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
And I have not seen him in a long time. Bruce Feldman, as I remember at ESPN, the magazine, was the king of ab work and core work. Just ripped in terms of abdominal strength. He's the National College Football Insider for The Athletic and a sideline reporter for Fox Sports. So we will get his expertise here on Nick Saban. It's good seeing you again, Bruce. Thank you for making the time for us.
Good to see you, Dan. That's a long time since those days of extensive core work. But I'm glad I'm remembered for something as positive as that.
What was the core work? You want to go through it as you join us from heaven?
It was just a lot of stuff where it felt like I'd wake up every morning and do a ton of core and a ton of abs and everything else and realize there's probably more to life than abs.
Yeah, there's college football. That's the only other thing. And everyone here is super titillated by what's happened here with Nick Saban. So were you surprised by this? How surprised was Alabama?
You know, the timing was a little strange because this had been, there'd been little rumblings about it, here and there for time to time. And then yesterday morning, I was leaving the TV studio and I got a text from somebody going, heads up, I heard Saban might be retiring tonight. And I was like, whoa. And then I texted somebody else and they're like, yeah, there's something out there, but they didn't know there was going to be tonight. You started making calls. And then, as you know, you don't want to be wrong on that story, and was not able to get it until Chris Lowe was actually able to confirm it. And everything I had heard from people that I had tried to confirm it with earlier in the day was, it wouldn't surprise me. And this is the kind of thing where they were like, I hadn't heard that yet. But then you started hearing more details about how, because there was bad weather around the country, especially, trying to get their players back to Tuscaloosa, that they were supposed to have a team meeting the day before. So this would have been on Wednesday, not yesterday, and or on Tuesday, not yesterday, I guess. And so that didn't happen. And then it got pushed back. But he was talking to coaches about prospective jobs that he had to fill on his staff. So it was kind of crazy the way that played out, the way it did.
You mentioned that, and it's been reported that he approached yesterday like any work day. He interviewed a coaching candidate, and then 5 minutes later broke the news to his team. I need to know the candidate that made Nick Saban quit football altogether.
Supposedly there were three, actually, that I know that he had talked to. Two were receivers coaches. One was a special teams coach. And it's crazy because one of the guys said, it's weird. I'll always be able to say that I spoke to Nick Saban on his last day of work.
But explain this to me, Bruce. That's super weird. Like, what are you doing? Like, how do you not know you're retiring later that day? Like, what is that?
That's the part I really don't understand, because one of the people I talked to about this, it was another coach who's close to Saban. He said, you're really kind of putting these guys out there and exposing them in a really awkward spot. Because as you know, when people interview for jobs, especially if they don't get them, when they're working for somebody else, they don't love it that it came out that they were sniffing around. Now, one of the guys I talked to was one of those three. It was like, yeah, one of his offensive coordinator had reached out to me. We had a conversation. He kind of downplayed it to the point like it wasn't like he was really interviewing for the job, but what is he going to say at this point?
Can you please explain to me what is happening with the analysis of Nick Saban when we have a consensus that he is the best ever, and I don't know who you would put second or where you would put the distance between first and second. Who is the second best college football coach of all time?
Oof, I don't know. Maybe it's Bear Bryant. There's such a gap, and I think part of it, Dan, is because the sport is wired way differently now than it was in the days of Bear Bryant, Joe Paterno. You can go down the list of guys who, whether it's Tom Osborne, there's just a lot of other hurdles that you have to overcome. First of all, now, back 50 years ago, you could basically collect top recruits and have like 200 of them just to keep on your roster so your rival can't get them. Can't do that anymore. You're also dealing with another level of like entitlement and challenges that come with dealing with 18 and 19-year-olds with social media and all these other headaches. Quite honestly, there are coaches, I would say this, and this era back in the 90s, Tom Osborne had stuff with Lawrence Phillips, especially, where I think if one of those things were to happen in this day and age, the coach isn't going to keep the star player around, or it may really come back on the coach. And so Nick Saban was able to fly really close to the sun in a way that none of his peers have been able to do it. The other thing that, and I mentioned this today, one of the stories that I did at The Athletic that got a ton of traction was a few years ago when it was known as like the Where's Dan story. It was when Dan Enos bailed out of being the offensive coordinator and Saban couldn't find him. And the story got into how Saban has this uncanny ability to keep replacing assistant coaches. Because if you go through the list of whoever has had a great run, it's usually a short run. And then when the staff changes or the dynamic changes, things start to fall apart. Even with Bobby Bowden, he lost a bunch of really good assistants who ended up becoming head coaches. And then all of a sudden the balance changed. Obviously we know Miami, it's up and down with who's there and who isn't there. With Saban, he was almost like placing guys who was like, yeah, that guy's a good coach, but I need to get him out of here. Let me get him hired someplace else so it doesn't look like I'm firing him. I mean, it was just remarkable how he was able to balance it. And the other thing that I think speaks to, his greatness was, we did this story a few weeks back on what exactly went wrong with Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. And one of the guys who worked for both him and Saban had said, Jimbo didn't really want to hear from anybody else. He thought he had all the answers. Nick Saban would talk to anybody because he was constantly trying to get better and constantly evolving and had this, growth mindset that is very different usually when people reach a certain level. So I think that's a credit to him and why he was able to stay ahead of everybody for so incredibly long.
Do you have any insight as to why after this season, was there anything in particular that maybe swayed him? Do you think if there was any sort of different result in the postseason, maybe he'd have stuck around longer, or do you think he just felt like it was time?
I think he, as a part of his age, it's also the college football calendar is so crazy right now. It's so manic in terms of how everything is crunched together. You have the transfer portal, you have NIL. Those are newer things, but it's also, it used to be, back not that long ago, National Signing Day was the thing. It was in early February and then you moved on. Now it's an earlier signing period. Everything is crunched together. I think it's hard for him. I also think it was hard for a lot of people around him. When I started calling around to try to confirm this yesterday, something came to mind. I was at the Rose Bowl last week, and after the game, I was around the Michigan locker room waiting, and Saban had just done his post-game interview, and he came from his press conference, and he was in one of those little, golf carts, and he had to stop because there was a cluster of people in front of the Michigan locker room down the tunnel. And it was a little awkward, and he kind of did this like pageanty wave and had this smile, and it was kind of like almost like a awkward smile. And it was not the expression I was expecting, like Urban Meyer, pizza box look, where it was just totally defeated. And thinking back, I wondered, did Nick Saban know at that very moment, I've just coached my last football game and I'm moving on?
Does he have any responsibility to have a succession plan? And how is Alabama going to get rated now in terms of players leaving?
I heard he's going to have some say-so and input into what they do from here. And they'll have some good choices. But again, who's going to want to replace Nick Saban? The pool they're picking from, whether it's Steve Sarkisian, who worked for him at Texas, Dan Lanning, who worked for him, is now at Oregon, Mike Norvell at Florida State. A lot of those guys, Steve Sarkisian replaced Tom Herman. You go to Alabama, you're going to replace Nick Saban. You're always going to be known as the guy who replaced Nick Saban. And I think if you think Ryan Day has a tough job because Urban Meyer went 7-0 against Michigan, and even though he's like 60-6 all time there, and people want his head, imagine what it's going to be like if you're in Tuscaloosa. So I think that is a hard deal for him going forward. And, it's like because of the way the portal is set up, there is a window now of about a month where players can move around. That's why one of the reasons why I was told the AD, when he met with the players yesterday, said, give me about 72 hours. So they're going to try to work really fast to have somebody in place so their roster and their commits do not start bailing.
I think a lot of people were expecting that Jim Harbaugh might be the name to announce he was leaving college football this week. Where does the Saban news leave all of that mystery around the Michigan team?
Yeah, it's definitely become a back burner thing. It was crazy, obviously with, first Pete Carroll, then Saban, and now Belichick. Those things have taken over. I mean, I still don't think Jim Harbaugh is coming back. I mean, especially now that he's won a national title. The one thing I've always heard from people who are close to Jim Harbaugh is that he really longs to win a Super Bowl. He came close. His brother beat him. He restored his alma mater. He took down Michigan. He took down Ohio State, beat them 3 times, dominated the Big Ten.
And Michigan.
Perhaps Michigan as well.
Both of them. Took down both of them.
Freudian slip.
Lucy, what were you laughing at in the middle of that?
Tom Herman.
Oh, just the general.
Just like it's Tom Herman.
The general idea of replacing Tom Herman. That can you tell me, is Nick Saban, is he replaceable? Like, how does this one work? Because is that a good job?
I mean, it's a great job in terms of the recruiting base, in terms of the resources. And the other thing I've heard this from people who've worked there is you have a direct shot to get whatever you want done. All these other jobs, even if they're big jobs, have some kind of bureaucracy, lack of alignment above. Nick Saban has cleared that out. Now, Nick Saban probably never got told no, especially towards the end. If you go in there and you're not Nick Saban, you may have a little more resistance in how things are, but I think that's going to be a big selling point, especially for the guys who have been there. And so, on that point, it's a terrific job. But if you're Steve Sarkisian, you're at Texas, you just got him to the playoff, and you're still built to, you got a lot of guys coming back. You've done some of the heavy lifting to get it out of the ditch. I mean, I don't know if it's from this standpoint, because money is, whoever gets this job, you already have an insane amount of money that you're probably getting paid. Or if you don't take it, you're probably going to, the one thing I feel very confident about, Jimmy Sexton is going to get a bunch of guys paid off of this in the next couple of days. I mean, that's Saban's agent. He's also the agent of Kalen DeBoer. He's tied with some of these other guys who worked in Tuscaloosa. But just the idea of the shadow of Saban. I mean, if you don't win a national title in like 4 years, are they going to be patient with you? It's a 12-team playoff. Making the playoff doesn't sound like such a great thing when it's 12 teams as it did when it was 4. I mean, this is a little like the LSU job. Brian Kelly won 10 games the first year. He beat Saban. Yeah, that's great. But the last 3 guys who coached there all won national titles. Nick Saban did it. Les Miles did it. Ed Ogeron did it. If you don't do it soon, they're going to run you out of there. And I think that absolutely holds true if you don't win big in Tuscaloosa pretty fast.
Very quickly, because we're almost out of time. If I were hypothetically flight tracking, which airports should I look at around the country that may have flights incoming to Tuscaloosa?
Those places are going to be very discreet, but I would say Dan Lanning at Oregon, he's a GA under Nick Saban and coached under Kirby at Georgia. He's got a massive buyout, way bigger than it's been reported, we found out. He's one I think they have interest in. I definitely think they have interest in Steve Sarkisian at Texas. Maybe Mike Norvell. We know Florida State, wants to leave, its own situation. Maybe Mike Norvell realizes that's a better situation for what I have here. I feel like Kalen DeBoer is a great coach. He just has no SEC ties, and I don't know how much that matters, but he has Jimmy Sexton now as an agent, and that could carry a lot of weight there.
Deion?
I think Deion's a year away, to be honest. If this had hung on, I don't know if you can hire Deion after 4-8. Maybe if he goes,
well, you can't hire him after 4-8. Hire Sarkisian, who was drinking on the job, let's do that. That's the way to do it. A guy who was drinking at work in the morning.
He's fine now.
Okay, good.
But I think they're looking at him as the guy who just beat them in Tuscaloosa this year.
That's all that really matters.
No flights out of the Boulder Executive Airport anyway. So,
Bruce, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Stugotz here from my friends over at Simply Safe. Been telling you about them for years. Why? I have had their home security system in my house for many, many years, protecting both me and my family. I would not recommend anyone else. In fact, they were named Best Home Security of 2023 by U.S. News and World Report. Simply Safe is comprehensive protection for the whole home, detecting and alerting you not only to break-ins, but fires, floods, and other threats to your home, getting you the help you need. Simply Safe prioritizes your privacy. That's why their indoor security cameras are the only ones on the market with physical privacy shutters to ensure your privacy 24/7. Try Simply Safe for 60 days, risk-free. If you don't love it, return your system for a full refund. Keep your home and family safer than ever in the new year. As a listener, you can save 20% on your new system with Fast Protect monitoring by visiting simplysafe.com/DLB. Customize your system in just minutes. That's simplysafe.com/DLB. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Don Le Batard.
Yes, you can't talk about double-digit national titles when every single call of you winning the national title sounds like this. Oh, there's Stubby Checker running down the sideline. if the audio, yeah,
That's not true.
yeah, and there's a World War II veteran pitching into another white guy, and he avoids another white guy. Oh my God, Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish have done it again for the 8th time. They're playing white people.
Stugotz.
Chubby Checker.
I'm sorry.
He's black.
He's black, and I was like, what's a white named Chubby Checker? I picked a black. I'm sorry, man. I'm improv in here. It's a pretty cool riff. Yeah.
Checker running down the side.
He spells it differently. All right. His name is Chubby. Maybe you didn't hear me correctly. His name is Chubby Checkers. There's an S at the end.
I feel like that should be the largest of 5.
Yeah, Chubby. Yeah, it's Chubby Checker. It sounds like a college football name.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
The news is coming in fast and furious.
Never ever stops.
I was on First Take this morning, and I always like being on First Take on like breaking serious news days because you just never know what the debate will be. So, caught a little bit of who's greater, Saban or Belichick? You know,
Who is?
I said Belichick just because of how hard it is to succeed for that long in the modern NFL. Are we recording or are we just having?
Yeah, we already started. It blurs.
Oh.
It blurs the line. You never know around here. Are we recording? We like the organic hellos. So what do you have back there that you're waving around, Jessica?
This is the present that Mina sent us for Christmas.
We've got a present for the entire group. All right.
Is that right, Mina? Who's it for specifically?
It is for the entire group. Yeah. It's for the studio.
All right, let's go ahead and open
I'll
it
open
up.
it. Stand by.
And while you're doing this, we will keep an eye on you. And in the interim, Mina, I will ask you.
Can I ask you a question that we debated earlier? Because Dan looked at me funny when I said that. Personally, I felt that Washington is a better scenario than the Chargers, even though they have a finished product at quarterback. They're picking number 2. They have brand new ownership over there, lower expectations, and a quarterback potentially on a cheaper contract. I think Washington's not a bad spot for Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on, in terms of those jobs, whether you want that total blank slate and what your timeline is, because it's going to take a second in Washington. The defense was really bad this year, and for some reason traded away both of their edge rushers instead of just one, Montez Sweat, who's been awesome in Chicago, and Chase Young. They do have the most cap space in the NFL, so there's stuff to rebuild with, but it might take time. As good as we think these top 2 quarterbacks are, you've seen many examples in the NFL recently of rookie quarterbacks struggling at first. So again, if I'm like a Belichick or I don't know, one of the younger coordinators who are being considered, there's a lot to like about that job, but it might take a second. And for ownership, I think you really need someone who you're going to hand over the keys because you're kind of starting from zero there. I will say the fact that they have a very good wide receiving core already, it puts them ahead of where Carolina was, which is what came to mind when I was thinking about a similar situation.
We're going to do a little unboxing here, Mina.
Okay.
I'll do a little.
But if you had to choose one from those 2 jobs, which one's better for Belichick? Just one word. Is it?
I'd say the Chargers. Yeah, just because I think with the quarterback situation already being resolved there, and I think he can fix the defense, even though they still have to add a lot of pieces. Defensively, he's been awesome. Since 2019, the Patriots defense first in points per game. Yes. There we go.
No,
you guys like it?
No, Workee. Yes, we love it. What a surprise. This is a great gift.
Is it from your mom or is it from you?
It's from me, Jess. So you don't think it's cringe, Jessica?
Is Billy Gill here today? Because he's
Billy's
not
not here
I
today.
asked that. Because
Oh no!
Billy threw a couple people back here under the bus last week on Mystery Crate because he took the heat for that take, which was not really his.
I don't know whose take it was.
So nobody's owning it right now. Well, I thought you could put it next to the that fancy espresso machine you guys have.
Mina, which is the best job for Belichick? Chargers or a different one? Like if you say, I believe he'll end up at blank.
I do like the Chargers for him. I think he can fix that defense. There's still some talented players. They're in a really, like to Mike's point, they're in a really bad cap situation. They're going to have to let go of two of the big four on both sides of the ball. But I think with Belichick, just given the lack of success he's had over the last few years offensively with his hires and with the quarterback selection and the players he's drafted, stepping into a team that of all of the openings clearly has the best quarterback situation makes a lot of sense.
You mentioned Sweat, and I believe he led two teams in sacks, correct? That cannot happen very often. Which of the games this weekend is the one that's most interesting to you? Because I love Rams-Lions. I believe one of those teams could absolutely get to the Super Bowl, and one of them's going to have their season ended.
Rams-Lions is the one that I feel like I have the least feel for, Dan. I think it's the hardest one to pick.
More than Chiefs-Dolphins in that weather. More than Chiefs-Dolphins in that weather. Like that weather to me makes Chiefs-Dolphins impossible.
No, it makes me lean Chiefs. I mean, that and more so than the weather, all of the injuries in Miami, which are just absolutely brutal at this point. With Rams-Lions, like both of those offenses should be able to move the ball on both of these defenses. Both of these offenses match up well with these defenses. The Rams defense, not great at stopping the run. Here come the Detroit Lions. The Lions defense allows the highest QBR in the NFL to quarterbacks throwing to wide receivers. Well, the Rams have some wide receivers. So for me, that one, it's hard to pick because of the sort of equality on that front. And also because both of these quarterbacks played very well this year, but occasionally will have the multi-interception game, in the case of Stafford, as good as he's been. So if something like that were to happen, I think it would make this game hard to predict. And then there's all the juicy narratives going into it as well.
We love talking football with you, but you're good at the societal stuff. So your viewpoint most recently on Aaron Rodgers as the first stopping place of where he wanted to reveal more of himself to America when he was the State Farm insurance man, was going to you to have a magazine story written about him. And then since then, everything has gone to shit.
You know, the cover of that story says, I think the title line is Aaron Rodgers Unmasked. It's from 2016.
Well, since then he did win I think at least one MVP, so it didn't all go to shit.
I'm just saying, from State Farm insurance agent to guy who wants to be seen by the public to now this is the way that he's seen.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, it feels like a million years ago, Tuesday, when he was talking about, because so many things have happened since then. But like when I was watching him, Dan, I was thinking about that question. And I was thinking about, I think a few weeks ago, you asked me what changed with him since you met him. And I sort of gave a throwaway answer, part because I really hate pretending like I have unique insight into any athlete that I've spent like 24 hours with, just because I did a story on him. So there's that. But also I think I was like, seems like he spent a lot of time on the internet, kind of waved it off. And I think that was a mistake on my part, or at least I regretted it watching him Tuesday because, watching him, I think it really drove home what is at stake, or like what is the meaningful thing about this story that transcends sports, which is the sort of normalization of conspiracy theories. And I say that not to criticize Rodgers' character or whatever, but really just to kind of criticize the substance of what he was saying, to criticize the sources he was throwing out. I mean, the names that he was bringing up. I don't know, Alex Berenson, for example, the former journalist. So he said his name. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's a guy who's been consistently proven wrong about vaccines and their efficacy and their danger. He has been misleading in how he has used studies. I'm sure some of the same studies that Rodgers has read. The authors of those studies have refuted him. You could ask any credible scientist, doctor, public health expert, and they would refute him. But when I was watching Rodgers and he said his name, I wasn't surprised to hear it because the people who believe the things that I think Rodgers now believes, they always cite the same people. You know, it really is groupthink kind of masquerading as independent thought. And it's not just on the fringes of society. I think, as evidenced by the fact, obviously, that one of our most famous athletes is now believing some of these things. But I think a lot of us have people in our lives who have gone down similar rabbit holes, who are sort of tempted by the idea of feeling like they know something that the rest of us don't, who, when they're met with skepticism or criticism, as Rodgers was, and I think this is at the heart of a lot of this, they double down. They're still having these debates while the rest of the world has moved on. And I feel like, you know, the fact that that's not just on the fringes is worth noting, and it's worth always checking those points when they're made and not just laughing them off the way we so often do. Because, you know, I understand that there's this inside baseball media aspects of the story that are interesting to you and others, and there's the rhetoric battle. But to me, like, when I was watching that, what I felt was at stake was none of that. It's this ongoing devaluation of facts and expertise. And that bothers me. And it bothered me that I didn't actually answer your question the first time you asked it, because I do think what he said was emblematic of that. Sorry, that was like a monologue.
That's okay, Mina. Aaron Rodgers he owns a lot of bad opinions. He also owns the Chicago Bears. Can you explain what the hell the Bears strategy is and why they're keeping their head coach but firing their offensive coordinator, and what they're going to do with Justin Fields? What are they doing, Mina?
50 seconds or less, Mina.
They're keeping him because the defense really turned around, and they did turn around. They were playing really good football at the end. However, I don't agree with this decision, because whether you're sticking with Justin Fields and going to your third offensive coordinator, or you're drafting a guy, it restricts what you can do offensively because you're not hiring an offensive coach. And also because of the candidates who are available. I mean, this is like an all-time option, or buffet of options, rather, when it comes to head coaching candidates. To stick with Eberflus.
Yeah, we lost. It was fighting. The Zoom was fighting. The Zoom was fighting. It was trying to get there.
We've been getting hits, and you froze on Eberflus.
Yes. We'll come back with Mina Kimes next.
Don Batard.
I feel like we need to normalize saying these scientific terms for organs on the air. Like penis? If someone, yes, you know what? If someone takes a foul ball to the penis, we should just say he took a foul ball to the penis. Say it.
Stugotz.
That free kick hit him right in the cock-a-doodle-doo.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Are you ready to go, Mina?
Yeah, as long as the internet seems good.
Yeah, well,
we got wild card football, baby.
Yeah. All right.
Come on, get psyched.
All right.
These games.
Okay, we're psyched.
We are already
going.
there. We are going. We are psyched. So tell us why you're psyched, where you're psyched, how you're psyched. Tell us.
I think every single one. Okay, that's not true. Pittsburgh, Buffalo's not good. But every single one of these games outside of Pittsburgh, Buffalo is a good game. Every single one of these games, you can make a case for an upset. Start to finish. It is wall-to-wall bangers. If you asked me to make an upset, I think I could do it for every team. Maybe not. I could do it for Pittsburgh. I could make an upset case for Pittsburgh, Jess.
All right, let's do this. 15 seconds at a time. Make all the upset cases. We're going to give you only 15 seconds on each one.
15 on each, not 15.
Yes, 15 on each. Are you ready to start? You seem pressurized right now. Go ahead and start. All right, let's do this.
Are you going to cue up do you want me to cue myself up here?
I want you to cue yourself up. 3. I'll keep it. I'll count down, and then I'll give you 15 seconds and tell you where it's time. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, the Texans, simply put, CJ Stroud. He is the best quarterback on the field. He has shredded all kinds of defenses. He's been incredible under pressure. Obviously, the Browns' defense is excellent, but if there was one young quarterback I would trust to solve it, it would be CJ Stroud and Nico Collins. I don't think that they're going to win.
Splash.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yes, 15 seconds. Yes, back to
Miami.
Splash.
Yeah. Here's a case for Miami. The Chiefs' run defense is really bad. And it's a cold game. Yeah, they've struggled in cold weather, but they still run the football really well. They run it really well to the outside, which is something the Chiefs have struggled to defend. I think Devon Achane could have a big day day if they commit to the run and come up with some creative solutions for what they have to do on defense. What's the next game?
Buffalo, Pittsburgh, 3, 2, 1.
Aside from the, maybe Josh Allen will go get the zoomies and turn the ball over, Pittsburgh is really good at running the football. They come out with multiple tight ends, they're ground and pound, and the Bills defense does struggle a little bit to stop the run at times.
Oh, splash. Wow. You came in and look at her. She's getting better and she's proud of herself. 3. Do I need to give you the game or you got another game? 3.
Packers.
2.
Right. We're on the Packers. Right?
1.
Okay, everything I said about CJ Stroud, you could also apply to Jordan Love. But I'll say this, the Cowboys defense, while they are very good, struggle to stop the run. Aaron Jones is back, looks good, got a lot of yards after contact last week. And I think that the Packers' young group of skill players actually will be able to hunt matchups with Dallas.
I think you were early there. I think you cheated there, Mike. I feel like you did. 3.
Wait,
2,
what game are we on right now?
Well, this is up to you, actually. 3. Cleveland,
Eagles, Bucks.
Cleveland. All right,
yeah,
Eagles, Bucks.
He never prematurely splashes.
3, 2, 1.
Have you watched the Eagles lately? I don't really need to say anything else. That's it.
Splash. I mean, that's good. It's excellent analysis. I've got to admit it.
We skipped a game, didn't we?
Did you do the Browns? I don't think you did. Did you do the Browns? You did?
The Texans are the underdogs.
Oh, my bad.
Browns are favorite.
My bad.
Oh, the Lions, the Rams and Lions. The Rams are underdogs. Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Jared Goff struggles under pressure. This Rams pass rush is actually heated up. It's not just Aaron Donald. The young players, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, have been getting after the quarterback. And on the other side, Matthew Stafford, at his peaks, is playing as good as any quarterback in football. And as I said earlier, I don't think the Lions secondary has answers for those receivers.
Are there any more games? Did we miss it?
That's it?
Those are all the games? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Chris Cody.
With the Dolphins and Tua, what do you think about them this offseason doing what the Rams did when they had Jared Goff? Realizing we have a fine quarterback. Is there the question is there a quarterback out there that the Dolphins could make a move similar to what the Rams did to get Stafford?
Like, who is their Matthew
Kirk Cousins,
Stafford?
even though I think he's a free agent.
It's not Kirk Cousins. I mean, the thing with Tua and Stafford and Goff is the analogy would be like, okay, Sean McVay wanted a quarterback who he didn't have to scheme up offense for, who could create on his own, who could, whether it was, on extended plays or just the straight drop back game, which is where the Rams offense went once they acquired Matthew Stafford. He would just get in empty and dissect defenses. Does Mike McDaniel want a quarterback like that? As good as his offense has been with Tua, I think it really depends on who's available, because there really aren't many quarterbacks who have Stafford's ceiling who are capable of doing everything he did. No one comes to mind. But the thing is, you never know with the NFL. Somebody could get surly and want out. I don't know. But when I look around the league, I don't see a similar option for Miami. Certainly not one who presents an upgrade. It's definitely not Kirk Cousins, who is much more like Tua than Stafford.
Mike Ryan was making the argument on behalf of Pete Carroll being the big retirement yesterday, because we're underselling and underappreciating that he won titles in the pros and in college and just got engulfed by Saban and Belichick. You're a Seattle fan, and I was shocked. I was shocked by him being let go. Were you?
I was shocked, and I can tell you a lot of people in the building were shocked as well, because Pete Carroll wanted to stay. This wasn't a mutual parting of ways. He, as recently as Monday or Tuesday, was talking about how he still wanted to be the coach. I was shocked because, Jody Allen is the owner now. She has mostly sided with Carroll. You remember the split with Russell Wilson, all the reporting around that, choosing between Pete and Russ and John, who's their GM, John Schneider. But I wasn't totally shocked when you sit back and you look at why this team has struggled as they've been to the playoffs. They went to the playoffs the year after Russell Wilson, but why they have fallen short, especially compared to, the Rams and the Niners. And it felt like every year it was inevitable that those teams would beat them. It was because of the defense, which is Pete Carroll's side of the football. It's interesting, right? Because with Belichick's case, it was because of the offense, which is not his side of the football, but he erred in the players he picked and the coaches he brought in. Pete's side, the defense has been bad for like 6 years now. Ultimately, the defense is why they're not in the playoffs. I may have made fun of just as Steelers, but they ran all over Seattle in a very humiliating loss. So I think when you look at it through that lens, you can understand why ownership thought, okay, well, we've given you 6 years to turn around this defense. We've given you trades. You trade for Jamal Adams. You trade for Leonard Williams. You draft Devin Witherspoon, and it still looks bad. And so I think when you think about it that way, it makes sense.
One of my favorite moments in Mina Kimes history and in show history was us going like 12 minutes beyond where the clock found acceptable when she was in a mall in Minnesota on a zip line, giving a take, waiting to get the payoff that ended up sounding, the football take on a zip line ended up sounding like this.
Heights.
You still with us?
Heights. It is amazing that there's no video of this.
There is not, but
It's like a blurry screenshot.
Juju had a great idea, though. Juju suggested that it's a Super Bowl because there's a zip line over downtown, Fremont Street, that we should have a Mina Kimes give a take football zip line challenge. The best take wins some sort of prize on a zip line. You were terrified there, correct?
I'm afraid of two things. I feel like maybe I shouldn't reveal this on the internet. One is spiders, and the other is heights. Why am I afraid? Like someone's going to drop a spider on my front door. Oh God, please don't do that. Nobody mail me a spider. I do not like heights. I could be at like a rooftop party and you would find me dead center in the middle. I will stay far away from the ledge. I hate looking down. I hated every second of that. I don't know why I agreed to do it. And I'm just glad it's not on video and I'm surprised I didn't pee my pants, honestly, because I was so afraid the whole time.
I don't understand this fear of spiders. Just kill it. Step on it. Get it out. Like,
They're
it's just
scary.
It's a primitive fear,
such
Chris.
a little tiny thing.
The way they move is upsetting.
They're yucky.
That's what it is. It's the multiple legs all moving at once. I just don't like that.
I want a documentary on the engineering for like a spider web. You ever see these things work? You're always like, you ever wonder, like, how did you get the thing way over there?
I'm sure that's a documentary you would spend a lot of time with.
How did you get the other string way over there?
I'm sure you would spend 2 hours on a documentary of that kind, with that as the content. Jeremy, you wanted to offer Mina an apology because Billy did betray you. Billy publicly said, snitched. He said that you were the one who criticized Mina Kimes'.
Give me a moment. Mina, first of all, we don't know each other that well, so I want to issue this apology because when we all saw the sign behind you,
you made fun of it. Just admit it, dude.
We were all
It was you?
we were all chatting back here. And as one of the young people on the show, I would just like to issue an apology on behalf of Lucy for her totally making fun of you.
Oh my God.
No, that is not how that happened.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So Jeremy said that's a very millennial sign. And I agreed. Okay, I'll say that. I did agree and I'm sorry. But then I said, we should make Billy ask about it.
That's exactly what happened.
And he did it, and that's his own fault. He should not
it's on
have
Billy.
listened to me.
How old is Jeremy?
I'm 28. On the line.
Aren't you a millennial?
Nope.
You're not. You're a Zoomer.
I'm right. I'm in between, technically. There's like that 3-year gap where you can kind of claim one or the other. Born in 1995. Anyway, this ruined the show.
Jeremy, go sit in Kansas City and don't ever come back. Like, just go sit.
Yeah, you know what? I deserve it. I'm out.
I've been trying to tell you.
Exude millennial energy.
He said, I ruined the show.
He did. Put it on the poll, please.
really did.
At Le Batard Show. Did Jeremy ruin the show? What was your favorite story, Mina? We got 20 seconds left. Just your favorite story from yesterday. All the sports shit that happened.
10 seconds.
Oh my God. I mean, the Pete Bell Saban stuff all dropping within the span of 24 hours. Like, I know I was just, I started this with like a long, very preachy monologue about conspiracy theories. But that's where my conspiracy theories would be like, do these all guys all get together? Are they on a chat? Did they all decide